I met this gentleman at a networking event who 6 months later got onto The Apprentice.
Okay.
And it's always a TV show that I've always watched and I've always enjoyed, being quite entrepreneurial. And I thought, how crazy would it be if this same kid who moved to this country, family of 4, living out of 1 bedroom in South London, then went on to The Apprentice. Like, that is super inspiring. And that's why I applied.
Me, you, and the driver, we gotta get this photo together. We gotta get this selfie.
Oh, open it. Have you got a bag? A bag for fucking what? We grocery shopping or something? We doubling up on these bags?
I was like, wow, women are incredible.
I've been out here every single weekend since I've been doing this, picking up people who have had amazing nights.
Off, mum, I'm sleeping. I'm staying here. Leave me alone.
I mean, I've always said this anyway, that this thing has killed me, but I can see I've aged. I look at my beard, mad grey hairs. It is mad. I enjoyed last week, really enjoyed last week, so thank you first and foremost. But like, I guess before we begin, like, do you want to explain maybe very briefly what you do and kind of like how you got into it? Because again, obviously I enjoyed last week and I just feel like it's really important that other people get to access maybe, or maybe even understand, I guess, what you do.
Yes, so in a sentence, I would say I help individuals get really good at speaking and communicating under pressure. And how I came to do this is because I was someone who was very anxious, very shy teenager, and the thing I hated the most was attention.
Okay, cool.
And I guess speaking comes with attention. So I found myself in a position in life where I was a delivery driver for a supermarket, didn't like it, and I thought I need to get better at speaking so I can progress into something else. I didn't know what that thing would be.
Yeah.
And in developing this skill set, I actually ended up getting really good, becoming a speaker and helping people get good at speaking.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. That was amazing. Okay, cool. I guess, you know, I thought about it on the way up here actually as to some of the activities that I enjoyed the most and the things that I kind of like went away with. And I think for me, I don't think eye contact has ever been a thing for me, but what I realized in doing the eye contact challenge or game per se, for example, I just felt that actually having eye contact and ensuring you're engaging the person you're speaking with is like really, really important. Is there anything else that you would recommend to maybe anyone else who was like having difficulties in terms of either having conversation or even public speaking?
Yeah, I think one of the main mistakes that we make when we're speaking is that we've put a lot of focus on ourselves.
Okay, cool.
And that makes it really difficult because if you go into a conversation or a presentation asking yourself, you know, are these people gonna like me?
Yeah.
Are they gonna think I'm smart? Are they gonna think I'm good? Naturally, your body will go into some sort of fight or flight because there'll be a heightened fear of judgment. Like, I hope they like me, I hope they think I'm good. So even if you know what you're speaking about, you might start panicking, your mind might start going blank, you start overthinking. Whereas in fact, what I do is I always put more the focus on the people I'm speaking to.
Okay,
so
cool.
rather than asking myself, are they gonna like me? I'll also ask myself, do they understand what I'm saying? What can I say? How can I say this in a way that will help them understand it? What is the most useful information for them right now?
Okay, cool. Cool. I always believe, or certainly in doing this job, I think absolutely everybody has a story to tell. Now, what's the one thing that's actually stopping people from either telling that story or even potentially becoming a public speaker? And the reason why I say that is because I think there's a lot of people that probably believe that the barrier to entry is quite high, when I'm unsure actually, so I'm thinking as I'm speaking, I'm unsure it is. And I'm unsure if the barrier is you yourself rather than the industry.
From my experience, it's a little bit of both.
Okay, cool.
But it is, the barrier is the self-limiting belief that people put on themselves. It's one of, public speaking is one of those things that if you want to get into, like, how do you get into it, right? You can't Google how to get into speaking. So what I did anyway is I figured out that to get into speaking, having a story is cool, but it's actually not enough.
Okay, cool.
It's more about extracting the lessons from your story.
Okay, cool.
Because as a speaker, you are basically an expert who gets paid to speak.
Okay.
So yes, everyone has a story, I agree. So then your job is, if you want to get into speaking, to extract the lessons from your story. Okay, you moved to this country and didn't speak any English, and you were a cleaner and now you're a manager. What are the lessons that you learn, and who are the kinds of people that would benefit from these lessons?
Okay, cool.
Those are the kind of questions you need to ask yourself.
And what things do you extract from your story when telling or teaching people?
Great question. So initially it was resilience, because it took me 7 years to sign a professional contract as a sprinter.
Okay.
And then 2 years after I signed pro, I got COVID and I got dropped by the same people that sponsored me.
Yeah.
Then I had to reinvent myself. Also, I moved to this country not speaking any English, and my story has just been one of resilience. So I would then go into schools and say to schools, hey, I know students operate better when they are resilient. I know they get better grades when they are resilient.
Yeah.
I have a story of resilience, let me help your students.
Cool.
So that's different to me going to school saying, hey, I want to motivate your students. They'd be like, okay, our students don't need motivating. But actually I'm going in saying, I'm going to help your students be more resilient so that they can get better grades.
Okay.
And I'm using my story to do that.
Okay. And would you say you've had any success stories or like any like standout public speaking engagements that have like maybe resonated with you or resonated more with like your listeners per se?
Yesterday, I was at West London College.
Okay.
And I've been doing this 3-week program I'm piloting.
Okay.
And this 3-week program, it's a mentorship, but it's also based on confidence and communication.
Yeah.
And they gave me their students who are most at risk, who are most anxious.
Okay.
And there's one student who does boxing, and he's also trying to get into fitness training, so PTing, and he's saying that not many people are turning up to his boxing classes.
Okay.
And I said to him, how many people are you telling about your boxing classes? And he's like, not many, because he's really shy and anxious. And I basically encouraged him. I was like, the more people you tell, the more people will come.
Okay.
So I gave him a few techniques on engaging people, telling them about his boxing classes last week, and then yesterday he was like to me, sir, you know, you told me to speak to more people. Yeah, I had a record number of people come to my classes the day after.
Phenomenal, honestly. How can people reach out to you? Because as I said before, like me and my friend came, and I guess there wasn't a reason why I came. I think I'd seen your ad like a number of different times, and I thought to myself, do you know what, actually I think I'm free this weekend, or this week, sorry, rather than the weekend. Let me actually go. And I thought to myself, let me do something that might be a little bit out of the box and a little bit engaging. So how can people actually reach out to you in regards to, I guess, potentially being a public speaker? Sorry, I don't know if I kind of like jumbled my words there. I think what I was thinking about was like originally, I last year thought about the idea of maybe doing a TED Talk, actually to potentially maybe tell my story, which I think maybe might be a bit inspiring, but at the same time people might be able to extract some of the lessons and hopefully take those lessons and who knows, do what with it. Do you know what I mean? So how can people reach out to you in regards to, I guess, maybe what you do? Because I know you did say you have helped people in regards to doing TED Talks and other things of that nature before. Absolutely.
So in the last couple of years, I've helped 16 people go on to deliver TEDx's, and people can reach out to me any way they want to, because fortunately ChatGPT knows me, Google knows me. So whether that's on LinkedIn, whether that's on Instagram, whether that's on email, whether that's through my website, just type in my name, Frederick Afrifa, and then reach out to me the best way you can.
Superb. Amazing.
What often happens though, the disclaimer is that 80% of people that reach out to me are not ready,
okay,
or are not serious. And I say that because I never sugarcoat how difficult it is. I'm someone who, to put my foot into this industry, I used to send 100 emails a day, 5 days a week, to schools and organizations in order to get a place.
Okay.
And that, it takes a lot, especially when you're a newcomer, it takes a lot of volume and a lot of hard work and creativity to get into this industry. So that's the disclaimer, to be someone that's ready to put in the work, to be creative, because that's what it takes.
Okay. Okay, cool. Amazing. Are you ready for the first question?
Let's do it.
Okay, lovely. Just pick out a question and we'll rock and roll.
Alright, so when was the last time you took a moment to appreciate your own accomplishments?
Shouldn't be doing I think recently I've been doing that quite a lot actually, because I think I've been in a reflective place. My dad passed away not too long ago. So I think I've had a lot of time to sit and think about either what's gone on or what's going to happen. And in so, I think I really appreciate where I've come and potentially maybe where I'm going, but at the same time, I'm thinking about the lessons that I've learned, and I'm still trying to decipher some of those actually. Yeah, so that's what I think I am in regards to that. But I do think I really appreciate a lot of the things that I've actually done. I think sometimes I'm a little bit hard on myself in regards to the route I've taken. And actually, I was thinking about it literally just before I picked you up, actually, because over the past, let's say 6 months or so, I've been thinking about a lot I always used to say to myself that I'm really proud of the route I've taken and there's nothing that I would do differently. Whereas now I'm beginning to think otherwise. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm thinking to myself, actually, do you know what? I've always been an individual who's been quite comfortable being a TA or working in behavior, etc., etc., and I've been quite comfortable with that and I've had no problems with that. And actually I love the education industry. I guess some of the questions I'm beginning to ask myself is actually, can I have gone down a different route? And the reason why I chose to become a TA or work in behavior, etc., etc., is because I felt that after the job, and this might be the case for all jobs, I can put it down without thinking about the responsibility of what I might need to do after work.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And it gave me an opportunity to kind of like think about football and a lot of the programs that I was kind of setting up in that time. And a lot of those programs were quite successful. But I guess maybe what I wanted to do is I wanted to, at some given point, transition from what might be something I do from 5 to 9 for something that might be my 9 to 5. And while it was successful, it didn't quite happen. And in so, like in having siblings who want to do X, Y, Z and so on and so forth, I now look back with hindsight and I hate to say maybe potentially even a little bit of regret as to maybe I should have specialized in something in my 9 to 5, which would have given me the foundation actually, whether career-wise or even financially, to then propel what will be the things that I want to do now in some respect. But there's been a lot of success, but it's just making me sit back and think, actually, could I have done something different? And the reason why I say that, actually, just in addition, before I finish off and pass the baton onto yourself, I'm in this phase of life where I now want to work a bit remote. So I love what I do in terms of driving and stuff like that. I think it's taught me a lot, because actually I think in driving and picking up people, I often say this in that I think when you speak to people, sometimes you'll kind of like see a reflection of yourself. So based on my conversation with you, I might learn a lot more about myself as well as yourself. So like, I love my job and I think it's taught me a lot over the past, say, 5 years or so. But now with some of the things that I potentially want to do in Ghana, I feel I need that flexibility and also that financial, I don't say financial power, but I need that financial stability to allow me to be comfortable in pursuing what I want to do next. And that's really, really important to me.
That's brilliant.
What about yourself?
When was the last time that I took a moment to appreciate my own accomplishment? It's happening a lot more recently.
Yeah.
And I find that it's very intentional.
Okay.
There was, I think in January, just before it was announced that I'd be on The Apprentice.
Okay.
Like 2 weeks before, I had this moment, I don't want to call it weird, but that's the first word that came to mind.
Yeah.
This unique moment where I had a gig in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I was in a hotel just the morning of the gig.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a song and I just started crying.
Okay.
And it hadn't happened to me before. And I think that song was a Clapton Conan song, and these are artists that I used to listen to back in school when I first moved. My school was in Gypsy Hill.
Okay, cool. So very local.
So it just brought me back to when I was just this kid who was learning English and was adapting to South London, to now being someone who's going to be announced to be on one of the biggest TV shows in the country. And I feel like that moment kind of changed me, because after that, I just, for the first time in my life, I could, without a doubt, say, I'm proud of me.
Okay, cool.
And without a doubt, know that I've kind of done what I've set out to do, which was to inspire people. And yeah, so it's happening a lot more recently. And now I'm finding the balance of being proud of myself and still pushing for more. And I feel like it's a bit of a dance that I'm learning.
Amazing. So I don't want to gloss over that whatsoever,
okay.
All right, in regards to The Apprentice, and that's something that I think you should bring up. So just tell us about your experience in The Apprentice and maybe potentially even how it came about.
Yeah, so prior to going into The Apprentice, 2023, I was well in the swing of things of speaking. I was speaking mainly in education, only in schools to be fair, primary, secondary schools, a few universities, and I was speaking about my journey. And it was an inspirational journey of this teenager who moved here, didn't speak English, and had then gone on to become a speaker.
Okay.
Through the adversity of being an athlete, getting dropped by my sponsor, and then reinventing myself as a speaker.
Yeah.
So, I met this gentleman at a networking event who 6 months later got onto The Apprentice.
Okay.
And it's always a TV show that I've always watched and I've always enjoyed, being quite entrepreneurial. And I thought, how crazy would it be if this same kid who moved to this country, family of 4, living out of 1 bedroom in South London, then went on to The Apprentice? Like, that is super inspiring. And that's why I applied. 3 months of auditions, I didn't make it on. That was season 18.
Okay.
And I remember I was quite upset. And then I told myself, how much more inspiring would it be if I didn't make it on the first time, but I kept trying as the person who always talks about resilience, and then I make it. And that's exactly what happened. So that's kind of how it came about. And yeah, my experience on there was crazy. It was wild. I feel like there's been 2 different experiences. There's been doing it and then watching it back. Doing it was really difficult. Watching it back has been very rewarding.
Why has it been rewarding?
It has been rewarding because of the response that I've received from my community.
Okay, cool.
I'm going into church and I'm seeing 10-year-old Ghanaian boys hugging me and their parents saying, this kid looks up to you like you wouldn't believe it. And yeah, that's not something I would have thought I would have ever experienced. So I think that's what's made it the most rewarding.